And there was a question that was posed to us. Do we ever think that there will be a course of study for music librarians at major conservatories? Now, this was actually the topic of my master's thesis and my MLA presentation in 2014. So I guess I'm a little biased to my response here. And let me find, I actually wrote down some notes. So this was, a topic that I found near and dear, especially since, I have my MLS. And I just felt like I wasn't necessarily getting the well-rounded education, and I didn't feel like I had the support of the faculty and staff that were in the library program just because they didn't understand music, So they felt that, yeah, I don't want to get too much into it, but it was an interesting process doing my thesis project. So what I did was I collected a group of experienced librarians from across the field representing academia, radio, archival, performance, digital only, music libraries. And they participated in a Delphi study. And what we did was we formed what a curriculum might look like. So there were courses of study that the group felt were important. But maybe it wasn't a degree. Maybe it was a certificate program. Maybe it was like a long weekend event that, you go to and you take some classes. Anyway, maybe it was a minor in library school. It could look like a lot of different things. But with many of our tasks learned on the job and in the library, some librarians like us here are lucky enough to get into a summer festival to, gain some glimmer of experience. But if you're not able to get into that, it's hard to break into, and even when you're doing a summer festival, it zooms by so fast, right? It goes so quick. There's not always time to get into the nitty gritty. You're glossing over stuff that maybe you wouldn't in your own library, given time. So how are we supposed to learn this? With advancing techniques in preparation, in acquisition, in editing. I feel personally it's going to eventually require a baseline, some sort of education. Maybe it's not a degree, but it's something. So my question to the team is I would love to hear your perspective. Simone, you're a few years in. Blake and Julia, you're in the job search. Nick and Josephine, you're finishing up school. So you're looking to, move forward in this field, in this industry of music librarianship. So what do you feel as far as educational opportunities, other than, what's already available? What would be beneficial?
I can talk a little bit. I just finished undergrad earlier this summer, and my background is actually in heritage and museum studies and art history. I don't have a music degree, and I didn't study performance or anything. So my background is in more of that archival, libraries, museums side of things, and I love that. I think it's really important to get more knowledge in that and to increase your breadth of experience and get experience in more than just a music library, because a lot of what has been really useful for me is some of my experience doing historical research for the college. I did an oral history program where I did oral history interviews with people at a historic village, and I learned about digitizing things, and I learned about dealing with sound recordings and rights and licensing and that kind of stuff. And it's just super applicable to my work in the music library. So getting that experience from kind of other places, I think, is really important. And then as someone who just graduated undergrad, I do eventually want to go get an MLIS. I'm really interested in that, continuing my education. And I've done a lot of research into programs around the country. And yeah, like what you were saying, there aren't music librarian degrees or even usually minors. Usually what I've been seeing is like you take your core classes to get your MLIS, and then there's maybe one class, if you're lucky, on music libraries. And I'd just love to see like more research or resources so that like music librarians going through those master's programs can have a little bit more specification. And of course, I haven't been there, so I don't know how in depth it goes. But yeah, I'd love to see a little bit more specialized resources for people to look into.
So, sorry, I just want to interject real quick. So, there are a few programs, and I'm sure you've seen them. So, San Jose State has more than the regular MLIS program as far as courses go pertaining to music. Who else is it? Is it University of Texas? I think they do that online program where you can take classes from wherever, but your degree is from I might not be right on this, but I remember hearing about this a while ago. So you can take classes from wherever, and then kind of make a degree at there. And then like Indiana has a program. I didn't go through the program at Indiana, so I can't speak too much to it. And then University of Michigan has a program, but I think theirs is just like a side by side of like you're in their information technology program and also their music program. Again, I'm not like a definitive resource on these academic resources, but yeah, they're few and far between as far as where we can be going to expand our education. Yeah, someone else.
I think I might have an interesting perspective on this because I started doing library work before actually going to college. My parents have always been very active in like finding the right path for their children and stuff. So when I told them I wanted to be a librarian, they were like, okay, let's figure out how we can do this. And they were very helpful and supportive the whole way. And so we scoured like the college curriculums of so many different like library things. We talked to a lot of orchestral librarians and tried to figure out what would be the best path. And as many of you have said, like there just wasn't much in like looking for an undergraduate degree that would really help me with library science. And David Jackson is the one who told me to get a music degree, maybe a music history degree, and a performance degree to kind of start things, and really just to focus on my internships and apprenticeships and kind of get into it like that, which has been great advice so far. We'll see if I get a job, but that's how I like went into it. And I was really thinking about it. I'm really interested in reading your thesis now, Joanna, because I think that in a conservatory setting, in a very serious conservatory setting, I think there is space for a student or fellowship, whether it be a 4-year or 2-year or program, like at huge schools with very busy full-time orchestras like Rice or Curtis or one of the other very, very intense conservatories. They could have a student librarian who is being trained and just working for the libraries there as a student, I guess. And I would have loved to apply to a program like that going into my undergrad because, a lot of times, like I'm performing and spending times performing or rehearsing that I wish I was in a library, but I'm on stage getting insight into what it's like to be an orchestral musician, which I'm sure will help me with my work down the line, but doesn't seem as relevant in my undergrad years where a musician, like a regular performance student, would be really getting their basics down with their scales. I wish I was getting more of the more rudimentary library tasks down really well rather than getting the conceptual help of orchestral context.
Nick, I have a follow-up question for you because I didn't know this career existed when I was in high school. I didn't know it existed when I was an undergrad. You know, I found out about this job because it was assigned to me in grad school. And then that, you know, that blossomed into more after, you know, I met a few librarians. But like, how did you hear about librarianship?
So there's an assistant librarian at St. Louis. His name is Hank Stolnick, and he also plays bassoon. So he's one of the bassoon teachers. Yeah, he's honestly the reason I'm here today. In just one, we were playing, I think, bassoon ensembles at Interlochen, and the bassoon teacher there was like, "Wow, like everybody, don't mark up your parts. Like these are originals." And Hank was like, "They're not originals," and he was like, "They look like originals," and he was like, "That's because I'm a librarian." And something about that just really like, I was like, "Ooh." I don't know if it was like, I don't know, like lying, like it looks like the parts are like lying to us, like saying like, I'm an original but you're not. And so I really liked that. And so yeah, from there my parents came up to Interlochen and we talked to him about what I should do, and he gave me the 3 steps that I advertised in my video that I made with NYOU, about like meeting a librarian, getting an internship, like reading a book on it, stuff like that. And so I dove right into it. I really liked it. And was there another part of your question that I was missing? I think.
No, I was just interested in how you learned about it, because it's not something that's advertised. It's not something that, you know, you're gonna find. You know, you can go into music education and you know you're going to be a music teacher. You can go into music performance and you know what you're getting into. But there's just so much about the production of getting to that stage that is, you know, behind a curtain, literally.
Yeah. I think there was one other part that was like really a big motivating factor for me was I knew that the National Youth Orchestra was going to be something that would look very good on my resume very soon after hearing about it. And I knew that my skills as a performer would not get me there. And so just a lot of good things happened where I was like inspired by the career. I met somebody who was really great in the career. I had an opening in my senior schedule where I could have an internship, and I might get to go to Asia for free with a group that will like project my resume for like years to come and get me God knows where. So starting with that, I think is probably the reason why I was able to get my job in Memphis, and then working with the professional symphony orchestra like as a freshman in college, I think is what really got me my job in Aspen last summer.
Yeah, I think the moral of the story for, you know, all of you and anyone listening is ask questions. Ask questions. You know, I think it was at my first conference that I fangirled a little bit over someone, and then I asked the question that I wanted to, and it was like, this is regular. They're just a regular person. Ask the questions to the people that have the information that you want. Worst case scenario, they're going to say no. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to go find it somewhere else. But it's going to help you build your network. It's going to get you the answers and the information that you want. So I urge all of you to step outside your comfort zones and ask the people the questions, because you might be surprised.